What's up? We are on the air, and there really isn't much to discuss tonight. Not a lot going on, so we're just going to sit across from each other for about 60 minutes or so and see what comes out. It's an interesting time, but it's also a not so interesting time. I didn't mention this, but it's kind of important. There was very little follow up on the status of Brian Danielson when it comes to AEW Dynamite. The discussion about the show, sometimes in talking about the show, you forget things that are not on the show. And Danielson was not on the show. There was no conversation at all about that horrible tragedy that occurred on Wrestle Dream. Now, why wouldn't you milk that angle? Why wouldn't you show that? I mean, not, the whole match, but at least show the post match part where you could hook more people, especially people who didn't watch the pay per view, and try to get them to watch the show or finish watching the show. I don't know. There was no talk of Danielson in terms of a follow up. There was so much that was left off the show. This is one of those times where AEW really missed the mark. And the show already didn't have much going for it. What people wanted to see was the follow up to the angle. And what we got is more of the angle. We expanded it, but we started featuring guys that can't draw flies to manure. You know, like these guys have nothing going for them, and there's no potential there. So one of the big issues with AEW isn't that the match style, which is part of the problem. Not even that it's match focused. That's part of the problem too. But the talent that they choose to push forward is also a huge problem because a lot of these people that they think have potential or they see something in, other people just see them as bland and uninteresting, and it's hard to get people to change that opinion. Somebody like Wheeler Yuta, for instance, real people are having to work overtime to believe in Wheeler Yuta when there's nothing discernible about him, nothing stands out about him. He can't talk especially well. He doesn't look especially tough. He he doesn't wrestle on the show really, and when he does, he most often loses. So then you got Daniel Garcia, where at least there's some spark there. I disagree with a lot of people who think that there's no future for Daniel Garcia. I certainly don't think he is going to be one of your top main event guys forevermore. At least I don't see that right now. But he has a lot more potential, a lot more going for him than Hook or Wheeler Yuta or Jack Perry. I mean, if you ask me who's the future of AEW, and you say of all the guys that they're pushing, who is the most likely to get over and be something? Well, number one is Darby. I wouldn't count MJF because he's already there. And number two would probably be Daniel Garcia. Um, he's better than Sammy Guevara. I can say that. He at least can put words together and has some level of intensity, unlike Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara is just a goof. Leith LD, WG Phil, Virgo, Rebel Penguin. How is each and every one of you doing tonight? So I really don't have a subject to go off of. So I'm just kind of sitting here. Uh, I saw that Batista did a skit on Jimmy Kimmel where he's making fun of Donald Trump, and it was actually pretty funny. And then about I think an hour or two later, it was announced that Trump probably going to end up showing up on Undertaker's podcast, which is the craziest thing. I can't imagine that was an easy deal to get. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And you know what? I can't wait. They talk about how it's going to be this week. Like, well, there's only one more day in the week, so it's either going to be this weekend or they're going to do it tomorrow. And look, I don't expect anything to come out of a Donald Trump Undertaker conversation, but it certainly got a lot of people upset. They're not going to really be talking politics, I don't think. Trump has done a lot of interviews where he mostly talked about things that interested other people. You know, he went on a sports podcast and talked about sports. Nothing came out of there in terms of politics or policy or anything like that. So, I mean, I don't expect anything. I mean, he did the conversation with Logan Paul, and nothing particularly offensive or particularly fantastic came out of that. It's just Trump going around being man of the people, you know, talking to various different audiences and people that are respected in those audiences. And I'm I, I find it humorous, to be quite honest. Um, I mean, the wrestling area has already been super political. I mean, it just is what it is. Um, of course, Hulk Hogan showing up to RNC didn't help, and then he was countered with Jesse the Body Ventura, and then there was the Batista, I think, again, video earlier that I talked about earlier. Um, and then that was followed up with Undertaker is going to have Donald Trump on his podcast. It's an interesting time. It's an interesting time. Matter of fact, I want to play the audio from the Batista skit where he was making fun of Donald Trump on Jimmy Kimmel. I want to play the audio to that because I found it somewhat entertaining. I'm not a person that takes politics to heart, so I don't really care about this kind of shit like this. So I'm about to play the audio for you, just some of it, and then we'll see what you guys think. We got to talk. A lot of men seem to think that Donald Trump is some kind of tough guy. He's not. All right, so Batista is boxing, and they're sending Batista in to talk to men because that's the weak spot. The weak spot when it comes to Kamala Harris and her political campaign is a lot of men don't like her. So now they're sending in all the guys. Batista, former pro wrestler, action star. They're sending them in. They sent in Barack Obama to chastise the brothers. So they're trying to get the men to care about Kamala Harris. Will it work? Well, it's a gamble. I mean, look at him. He wears more makeup than Dolly Parton. Oh, God. Baby. This guy's afraid of birds. Donald Trump had his daddy pay a doctor to say his little feet hurt so he could dodge the draft. Look at that gut. Like a garbage bag full of buttermilk. A garbage bag full of buttermilk. That's pretty good. He sells imaginary baseball cards pretending to be a cowboy fireman. Yo, the cowboy fireman is hilarious. That's ridiculous, bro. The cowboy fireman is hilarious. But for the record, I'm pretty sure some artist put that together. He's just selling random merchandise, bro. That's like the Trump coins and all the Trump teddy bears and all that other dumb shit he's selling. I don't know why he's selling teddy bears and firefighter cowboy cards. Oh, that's hilarious. That's good shit. Guy's barely strong enough to hold an umbrella. He's 78 or something like that. I mean, look how he drinks water. Oh, that's hilarious. He does drink water with two hands. Make sure not to spill it. Chickadee. He's got jugs. Big ones. He cheats at golf. He creeps around beauty pageant dressing rooms. Do you know that little dance he does? He looks like he's jacking off a pair of giraffes. Oh, wow. He's moody, he pouts, he throws tantrums. No, get those lights off! He acts like a 5-year-old behind the wheel of a truck. He bends over for food. He's cattier on social media than a middle school bean girl. The social media thing is pretty good. That's a good one. I like that. Guy needs help walking downhill.
Almost there, Grandma. This November, let's stop kidding ourselves. Donald Trump is afraid of rain, of dogs, of windmills, Merle, the street, and being laughed at. Isn't it past your jail time? Mostly, he's terrified that real red-blooded American men will find out that he's a weak, tubby toddler.
Mommy, take me home. Mommy, I want to go home.
What's wrong, tough guy? Did someone grab you by the...
That's a good line.
Bitch.
That's a good line. I like that one at the end. I like that one at the end. That was pretty good. Uncle Dave. Grandpa Dave. Dave Bautista was a grandpa at 35. That was amazing. Ironically, I think that was the same year he main evented WrestleMania. Oh boy. But that was pretty good. That was pretty funny. I thoroughly enjoy when people are making fun of other people. So that one was pretty good. Usually these kind of political ads are kind of cringe. Batista isn't much of an actor, but I still like him as a pro wrestler. I still like him as a guy. He lost a lot of weight, but he looks to be in good shape. I think he's almost 60, or he's in his 60s or something like that. So, but he's been openly political for a while. So it is what it is. I thought it was funny. Jimmy Kimmel was not funny. He's terrible. But whoever put together that Batista thing was pretty funny. It was pretty good. Do you have any hope for the political future of the U.S.? Nope. It's only going to get worse from here. It's only going to get worse from here. Trump is economically illiterate, and Kamala Harris is she's an empty suit. And that's the most dangerous thing. I would rather have Trump in office because at least somebody's going to control what he can do. But Kamala Harris, you never know who the fuck is pulling the strings when it comes to that. And I don't like that idea. I don't like it. Again, you're voting not for a particular person. You're voting for a system. So the political system under the Democrats is not good. I mean, they got a brain dead man in office right now who can barely speak. Joe Biden has the same level of brain functioning as Jimmy Carter, and he's still the president. Who's running the country? Didn't you see there was a picture of his wife at the head of the Oval Office or something like that? This is a disaster, bro. This is not good. This is not good. You know, when you have 50 years of dumbing down the population, the politicians got dumber too. At least Trump has some kind of experience in terms of, running businesses and being president prior. Kamala Harris, though, I can't tell you one thing she's done. She's been in politics 20 some odd years, I think. You can't put your finger on one thing that she's really done. So I'm deeply concerned about the political future of the United States. That's why I'm a libertarian. I do not want these people having control over our money, over our jobs. Trump is the best we got to divesting from all of that stuff. Maybe talking him into letting some of these things go. But the Democrats just want more and more power. They're going to fuck up more and more, ruin more and more people's lives. I don't like it. I don't like it. Storm Mexican guy, Trump is going to lose because it's rigged. And it's going to be fun watching MAGA tards cry. Oh, they threw a fit last time, but it's far more fun to watch the meltdown. My goodness, I never became more political than the night Trump won. And I watched the Young Turks, well, specifically Cenk Uygur, erupt in real time. It was so funny. It was one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen in my life. I wish I could relive that moment again. Batista shouldn't talk considering he cheated on his cancer-riddled wife. Holy shit. That really happened? That sucks, Dave. Stone Mexican guy says Jesse Ventura hates Hogan so much he sold out to the Democrats. It's actually really funny. Well, okay. The thing is, Jesse Ventura is the kind of conspiracy theorist that they like. and he's always kind of been a bit of a leftist. But he's the kind of conspiracy theorist that they like, because he's not really over the target as much as other kinds of conspiracy theorists, like an Alex Jones conspiracy theorist. He's too close to the truth. When you're way out there and you're so far into the weeds of conspiracy theory that nobody really cares what you have to say, which is how some people, like, that's how Alex Jones used to be to people. Like, there used to be, when he was talking about the Bilderberg group and all that kind of stuff, and only people who specifically sought out his DVDs and stuff like that could see it. They didn't care what Alex Jones said. And then, as it spread, he got closer and closer and closer. It was like, nah, this guy needs to be stopped. He's still a conspiracy theorist. Most people are. I mean, everybody has a conspiracy theory that they believe. But it's all about how close are you to the truth. The further away you are from the truth, nobody cares what you say. The closer you are to the truth, the more you get slapped with disinformation, misinformation, they want to take you down. Batista looking like he about to troon out. Oh my lord. I think he just stopped taking steroids. I mean, he wants to be a serious actor now, so he stopped taking roids. I mean, again, he's in his 60s. He's not wrestling anymore. He said he wants to come back and do something. He doesn't want to wrestle though. They think he wants to do, well, they've been teasing the Hall of Fame thing for a while, but I think he wants to do like some segments or something on WWE TV, especially since Triple H is running the company now. I think he wants to come back and do something, but it's just, I think it will happen eventually. But he's done. He's cooked. He wants to be a serious actor. He's in Hollywood now. I don't know who told him he could act. I mean, he was good as my man in Guardians of the Galaxy, Drax. He was good in that, but I've never seen anything else that Batista was in, and I was like, oh, Batista was good. Never. It's unfortunate. What are your thoughts on the Brett Bayer of Fox interview Kamala Harris? Was it a gotcha or Kamala just wasn't? She's not good. She's not good. She's not good thinking on her feet, and she's not good when she's being challenged. And I think that some of the questions were a gotcha. Like when they were playing clips and things like that of like her talking about wanting to trans the illegal immigrants, which is absolute insanity. Why would you even agree with that? But that's also why I mean she's an empty suit. If it's crazy and it looked like it wasn't going to bite her in the ass, she would just agree to it. Years ago she would just agree to stuff because ultimately it's about appealing to your base. It's not about what you really would do or what you really think about these subjects. She probably has no thoughts about these subjects at all. She just wants to win. Anything to prevent from actually having to go get a job. That's the worst thing about government. These people will say anything to prevent from having to go and get real fucking jobs. They'll say whatever. Sure, we'll trans all the illegal immigrants using what money? Social Security. That's the only money you have to spend on shit like this. And then surprise, surprise, it's gone. So yeah, I don't think she really believes anything. I don't know what she believes because I don't think she's actually said her true feelings on any subject. I don't think she has true feelings on any subject. She's a California politician. She's as empty as they come. Whatever the legislature says is what she believes. Whatever her voters say, that's what she believes in that moment. That's the wrong kind of stuff for you to make laws with. I would rather have somebody stubbornly fight for something that they truly believe in, even though I think tariffs are a stupid idea, which is a Trump policy. I hate tariffs. It sounds like a really bad idea. But it's something he truly believes in, and no economist and nobody else is going to be able to talk him out of it. I would much rather he say, this is what I believe in, this is the outcome that I want. It's like, okay, what about all these negatives? And he's just kind of like, well, we'll just take the negatives that go with it. I'm like, no, that's not a good idea. But at least he actually believes something. Kamala Harris, I'm not sure what she believes. She's been doing a lot of talking. Collard greens in the bathtub, She's talking about growing chili peppers now. Like, bro, what the fuck is she talking about, man? Like, I don't get it. I have no idea what's going on. And then she put out that silly black man plan. I laughed at that because it didn't have nothing to do with black people. It just, again, whatever it takes to win. Those are the worst people. Trump can be wrong. You can at least say he's wrong. But this shit just flip flops every single goddamn day. You don't know what these people believe. And those are not the people you want making laws. It's not. If the average person doesn't know what the fuck the law is, how can he follow it? Why would somebody want to live under a system where you don't know where the laws are coming from or what the people you put in power what they believe? But folks can vote. Vote how you want. I'm not a huge, but this election cycle is absolutely why I believe that everybody should not vote. I don't believe in democracy. Everybody shouldn't be voting. Everybody's vote shouldn't matter. There's just, I don't know. I don't get it. Off topic, what's your favorite Lupin the Third movie or special? Oh, Jesus. There's a bunch of those on Retro Crush, I think. I've tried watching them, but then Retro Crush has commercials. Oh, it's a pain in the ass. Um, I like the some of the older Lupin stuff. Like I think is it from the 80s or the 70s? I know that there's like different jackets for different eras. Like there's green jacket era, red jacket era, etc. But I don't think I'm well versed enough in Lupin to know the difference. You know, and so. But I did like the Fujiko Mine special that they did. I thought that was pretty good. I think she's a pretty good character in terms of how they use her as a seductress and everything. It's pretty good. WG Phil says Trump survived 3 assassination attempts. How could he be portrayed as weak? Because he can't hold an umbrella and he holds water glasses with 2 hands at 80 years old. WG Phil says Jimmy Kimmel's the worst thing to happen in entertainment. Oh, well, he's one of them. This guy named what is his name? Wade. I think is it Wade Stotts or he does the Wade Show or whatever. But he did a video. Let me see if I can find it on how bad late night television has gotten. And it's tremendous. It's worse than I thought. And all of those dudes are terrible, except Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien is the only one that remains funny. Everybody else is terrible. Let me see if I can find the audio. He says he's surprised he ain't talking about who Trump's funders, like guys like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. Weirdly enough, is Peter Thiel is like super gay, very gay dude. AJ3 says it's the funders the answer to. It doesn't matter who we pick; they're slaves to the funders, and no one talks about that. Yeah, I wouldn't say they're slaves because once you're in power, well, specifically once Trump gets in office, it's not really about him anymore. Like you can't really punish him. You basically be punishing.
Do late night talk shows have a future? That's the question.
It would basically be the senators and his ability to make other people. Like part of the reason why the Democrats are still beholden to Obama is because Obama has the funders in his palm of his hand. So Obama can do stuff like force Joe Biden to drop out of office, even though he's not in office. He has that kind of authority because he controls the funders. They all love Obama. So Obama gets to go around and make kings. He can go and do campaign for this person or that person and usually get the black vote out and get people talking. It's not working this time because Kamala's so terrible. But usually something like that could really turn things around. And he has the funders, But Trump is not going to have that. Once he's out of office, they're probably going to black him out, not even talk about him anymore. And that's whether he wins or loses. I mean, win or lose, the MAGA train is pretty much over. So hopefully something new comes along because that MAGA train is over. I did find the video. It's called "Why Late Night is Downsizing." It's from he said the Wade Show with Wade. I think his name is Wade Stotts or something like that. What the hell is his name? Shit, I don't know. He looks like brown haired Matt Walsh. WG Field says, I'm convinced Democrats are pro pedophilia and will make sure pedophilia is legalized for the alphabet. I believe that they don't want you to recognize that they're creepily, that everything is incremental. You know, quite a few of them are okay with pedophilia, even if they're not pro pedophilia. They're willing to turn a blind eye to it, which is why they're going to change things incrementally. For starters, they're doing with pedophilia what they did with being gay, what they did with being trans. First, you say it's something that they can't help. Oh, they're pedophiles. They can't help themselves. It's something in their psychology, and there's something going on with their genes. Oh no, you can't hate people just for who they are. And then you're like, well, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe it is just their genes. And then they start passing laws, and then all of a sudden you can flip flop. You know, like they used to say being gay was genetic. They used to say being gay was genetic. Then all of a sudden, being gay ain't genetic. It's a choice. And you're like, wait a second. Because being a man or a woman is a choice, which means, oh, in the trans issue, oh no, they can't help it. It's something wrong with it. It's the brain in the wrong body. And then once they started passing enough laws and they got enough momentum, well, you can be a woman between 8 and 4, and then be a man between 5 and 9. And you can just cycle in and out like this. It's like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? So eventually they're going to treat pedophilia the same way because these issues, they just stack on top of each other. They're abhorrent to some people. You know, the idea that homosexuality alone pisses some people off. But once you get enough people to believe that being gay is genetic, now, certain number of people are going to accept that. There's still going to be some hardcores who are not going to believe that being gay is genetic, but they no longer have a voice loud enough to do anything. And then you just start taking it from there. Then you can say, oh, the trans thing, you're going to piss people off with the trans thing. But then you say it's genetic. It's, something psychology wrong with them. And then you're going to win enough people over with that. And then you're going to make the people who are dead set against the trans issue, they're going to be minimal. They're going to be small. But by that point, you've taken it and run with it. The exact same thing is going to happen with pedophilia. But notice that they're really only looking at pedophilia from the perspective of men. Right now, we know that 18-year-old girl is old enough to go into the military, but if she has a 35-year-old boyfriend, it's a problem, right? She can go fight for her country and get blown up by a landmine. She can smoke cigarettes. She can go to the club. She can start up an OnlyFans. But if she wants to have a older than normal boyfriend, oh no, he's a pedo, even though that's technically not even pedophilia. That kind of stuff is what they're going to do. It's going to be legal, but not legal. And then all of a sudden, it would just be something that nobody talks about anymore. But the idea that people marry kids or marry kids off is a really old thing anyway. It's extremely old. Actually, children's rights is actually the most recent thing in the world that makes sense. We used to force children into, mines, and they used to work on oil rigs. Children used to work in like some of the most dangerous jobs in the world because we really didn't think of children in terms of they are innocent and they need to be protected. We looked at them as they're another mouth to feed, so they could at least help. So you send your little 10-year-old son into the mine, which is not good. But now a 14-year-old can't even get a job. They're looking at you like you're committing a hate crime because you're talking about a 14-year-old getting a part-time job. Oh, he's going to go out there and landscape or something for a couple hours a day after school, or instead of going to school, we're going to send them to some kind of training program where you might learn something about how to, take care of himself. All of a sudden, you're lynching Negroes in 1920s Mississippi or something like that. It's the worst possible thing in the world. But I think that when you look at incrementally, that's how they get people to agree to things. And they almost got me. They got me the first time with the being gay stuff. That they got me then. And they also got me with the trans stuff. Because I was like, there's no way people would accept being made fun of on purpose. But then I realized, like, once they normalize it, you're the one being made fun of. And genetic anomalies do happen with, human bodies. People grow penises and breasts. It happens. So you can naturally say, okay, maybe it is genetic. But they're not getting me with the pedophilia. No way. And they're starting doing the whole virtuous pedophile stuff. No. Mm-mm. Nope. Not playing that one. WG Phil says, why is Gretchen feeding a deer girl? Michigan is furry capital or something. She's just cringe. She's cringe. And she wants to be president. That's what's going on. She's he said you are officially the #1 Russell pundit for pointing out Takashita is Bolo. He kind of looks like him too, doesn't he? Except for Bolo was a little bit older and he's whiter. Like Bolo was more muscular. But Takashita looks like him a little bit. Even though I believe Bolo is Chinese and Takashita is Japanese. WWTNA full, or is it TNA awful? That's what I've been calling it. Obama is nuking whatever credibility he has left with black people for this goofy chick. To be quite honest, and he don't know this, but a lot of the reasons why black men especially, have started voting Republican and woke up is because of Obama. And he don't even notice it. He's so arrogant, he don't notice. If he was really in the hood, he was really in the streets, he would have known that. A lot of people don't like Obama. He don't know it, and the media don't know it. But there's a lot of people that when they see Obama coming, they start rolling their eyes, sucking their teeth, and they're like, fuck this nigga. Like they can't stand that dude. And they don't know it. They don't know it. People watched Obama like a hawk when he was in office. They may like his wife, but they don't like him. And so when he comes out, because he's doing the same thing now that he did before, he switches it up. He talks to all these different groups differently, like he's a chameleon. How he talks to women and how he talks to men are completely different. And when he starts talking to black men a certain way, a lot of those dudes started getting offended. I think this happened when he did like a commencement speech at an HBCU, an all-male HBCU. I think that's when I first started seeing that a lot of black men didn't like Obama. And it only grown since then, but he was out of office, so it didn't matter. But young people love him. There's a lot of young people who are, that's all they've ever known is Obama being a politician. And he's the shit to them. A lot of older black people, though, they voted for him because they wanted to have a black president. By the time he was out of office, they couldn't stand that Negro. And they may even voted for him twice, but now they hate his guts. What are my thoughts on AIPAC? I do not care about AIPAC. I don't like AIPAC, to be quite honest. I don't like action committees. Not a big fan of, especially when they write the policies and they just give it to the politician to pass. That sucks. WG feels I don't think Republicans will ever win an election again without MAGA. Well, I don't know if that's true, but it's going to be difficult because the idea is going to be, whenever are you going to find a Republican with so much charisma? And that's really what people are responding to is Trump's charisma. The same thing with Ronald Reagan. You have your functional managers, George H.W. Bush, Nixon, not specifically guys who are charismatic, outgoing guys, but are smart guys, who are not going to screw things up too badly. And then you have personality guys, Trump, Bush, Reagan, Bush Jr., Reagan, Bill Clinton, those kind of guys. And it's be like, okay, he can screw everything up, just come out smiling like, I just screwed everything up. I'm so sorry, guys. But then he'll make you laugh, or he'll do something silly, and you be like, man, how can you hate this dude? But Bush broke their brains. Like Bush broke brains. So you can forget it. Everybody is a Hitlerite fascist after Bush, but they're going to try to run regular old Mitt Romney style Republicans. You know, they're setting up this JD Vance dude. Look, he's a fine VP, but because he's going to be there to be sort of the conscience to keep Trump in line to a degree. But once he's on the ticket on his own, it's over. He's gonna get steamrolled. Doesn't have any charisma. Doesn't have any personality. Doesn't matter how smart you are at that point. At the presidential level, it's all about charisma and personality. And the Democrats will search the earth for somebody with some personality. And they probably got somebody in the chamber right now that they just didn't want to use for this election cycle. And they're going to jump out in the next one and kill them. It's not going to be that dork in California either. You know, he's just, whatever. It doesn't matter who the mayors or the governors of California and New York is. They're just rubber stamps. The legislatures are so heavily blue, it don't matter who the governor is. He's going to have to stamp whatever. I mean, the same thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, they had a Republican governor not long ago. Psst, it's California. The governor barely exists. All he does is stamp things that the very, very heavily left wing government wants. That's it. Yeah, kids were chimney sweepers. Um, they did a lot of. I mean, there's always been child jobs on the farm. They collect eggs, wash the animals, that kind of stuff. But when you start taking your kids out and they're doing, dangerous jobs like construction, like you got child roofers, it's like, okay, you're doing too much. At the same time, though, those people were poor. They were poor as shit. And if you got like a 10-year-old son, he eat like a horse. So you're like, okay, look, might as well have this little dude, you know, go and make his own bread at some point. It wasn't out of the ordinary either. But then, I forget what year it was when we realized that children shouldn't work. But even though the real reason they passed it is because they were trying to protect men's jobs, and they didn't want to, replace men with children, because you can pay children less because they don't know what the cost of a job is. Every law that has been passed around labor has been about protecting the people who work. You know, um, so labor unions, minimum wages, child labor laws, all that kind of stuff is just to protect a certain subsection of people who were being replaced. There's a longshoremen's union that they got going on here, that they went on strike. They're trying to prevent AI, right? They're trying to prevent automation of their job. Well, a lot of union jobs are going to be automated. You can be a Luddite if you want to. You don't have a choice in the matter. And going on strike ain't gonna do nothing to make them automate faster. After every single union strike or big contract comes layoffs. They're just going to replace you with robots or computers. And then you're going to be sitting at home, and we're going to be worrying about male suicide rates. So I can understand it from both sides. But all of the laws about labor has always been about protecting labor. Um, and specifically people who don't want to be undercut. You know, um, you don't want women in the workplace because they might work for less. You don't want blacks in the workplace or illegals. That's what's going on right now with the illegal immigrants. They might work for less. So it's all about protecting the worker. You know, if Trump was serious about bringing manufacturing back, he would abolish unions, but he is not going to do that. So he started talking about tariffs. He's going to go after the corporations instead, which is why the unions are supporting him, even though they know it's going to lead to some people losing their job. Most of those people are going to be outside this country. There's going to be a certain number of people who are going to be very, very upset when the cost of their products go up. They're going to be very upset when the cost of things like steel go up. The cost of cars are going to go up. Maybe the cost of building certain, buildings are going to go up. That's not going to be a good time or a fun time. That's why tariffs are a bad idea. But he's dead set on doing it. So, but you can get rid of the minimum wage, and that could help a lot of people. True on Obama. Lots of blacks had a change of mind. Yeah, that's true. Lee does remember the Boondocks episode where Huey and Uncle Ruckus almost got beat up over not liking Obama. My, how times have changed. Big Ride and Obama. That shit was funny. That was very funny. If you were ever to get back into gaming, what video games would you be interested in playing? Oh, that Sparking Zero looks really fun. I mean, I rarely watch videos of people playing video games. Very rarely. But I've enjoyed the Sparking Zero videos. I do want to play some of the new RPG games. I was a big fan of like the ninja games, like Shinobi. I heard they're making a Shinobi anime or movie or something. I was very excited to see that. But I definitely would have been one of those guys playing like the new Tomb Raider or something and being raging out and breaking the controller or something. That video game addiction was something else, man. I don't know why y'all trying to push me back into it. You ever heard about this guy named Riza Islam? I did. I saw some clips of him talking. And I saw him sit down with Beta. What's his name? Jesse Lee Peterson. I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched the first couple of minutes. He seemed like a really smart guy. Another guy that was, I think he was raised in the Nation of Islam. Those guys tend to be really smart, but I watched a couple of documentaries on the Nation of Islam that made me laugh. I thought they were hilarious. They were produced by the Nation of Islam too, by the way. I noticed that they've switched their history up, which I find to be very humorous. There is a documentary that was on the Muhammad Speaks YouTube channel called Lost Found: The History of the Nation of Islam from 1930 to 1975. And in that, they claimed that W.D. Fard Muhammad, who is God, technically, in the Nation of Islam, never proclaimed himself to be God, but it was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad who said he was God. I raised my eyebrow and said, "What now?" And you realize Elijah Muhammad wrote the book, right? So clearly they could blame it easily on him. But where did he get the idea that this guy was God? He just made it up. Like, where did he get the idea that this guy was God? I don't know, man, but it was a lot of interesting stuff that I didn't know about Elijah Muhammad. Actually, he had 8 kids before the Nation of Islam was even founded. Well, he had 6, and then he had a 7th one after he met Wallace D. Fard Muhammad, and then he named that son after him. So he named his son Wallace. His last kid was named Wallace, and Wallace ended up changing his name to Imam something Muhammad. And he took over the Nation of Islam in 1975 after Elijah Muhammad passed away. But then he made a splinter group, and that splinter group is built off of the legitimate Islam, the legitimate religion of Islam. So it's not the cult, the Nation of Islam, anymore. It is based off of the legitimate Muslim culture, because that's what his son when he was excommunicated. His son was excommunicated for a little while. He went and became a real Muslim. And then he came back, co-opted his father's teachings a little bit, and then began to slowly but surely push the Nation of Islam into legitimate Muslim territory. And then in 1975, 76 or something like that, Louis Farrakhan shows up. And Louis Farrakhan starts up the Nation of Islam all over again, completely and totally ignores Elijah Muhammad's son doing his own thing over there, just completely ignored him. And that's why we still have the Nation of Islam today. And that blew my mind because I didn't know that. You know, I thought that Louis Farrakhan took over after Elijah Muhammad passed. And that's technically what happened, but it was mostly people who did not like Wallace went with Louis Farrakhan. They didn't like the idea of Wallace moving away from the race stuff, you know, because he believes Islam is for everybody. It's a legitimate religion. That's not what people was getting into the Nation of Islam for. They were getting into the Nation of Islam for the race stuff, right? The white man is the devil. That's what they was getting into the Nation of Islam for. And Louis Farrakhan just picked that up and ran with it. And now he's on death's door, apparently. And I don't know who's going to take over for him, but it's going to be an interesting time when he's not around anymore. Because he's been running the damn thing so damn long now. It's going to be interesting. AOC versus Vivek, the Star Wars Force Awakens. Oh my God, AOC is so goddamn stupid. She's as stupid as Kamala. What was the last wrestling video game you played? Okay, I played with my homeboy Young Search. I played 2K24. I played it. I played it at Young Search's house. And I think before that, it was like 2K22. I think I played. Same thing. He buys them shits every year. Like when it's one of the few games he actually buys. He buys like Madden and 2K24 wrestling games. And I'll play that shit with him, but mostly I don't have a system or anything. So have you ever listened to J. Cole's Port Antonio? No, I didn't know it was out. So I really am not enthused about listening to J. Cole after his incredible cowardice, even though he was smart to get out of that situation, but I'm not really motivated to listen to J. Cole at this point. BEP says Kamala's platform reads like a wish list for retirees at their Florida beach house. So who actually has a read on what the black swing vote wants? Well, if we're going to be honest, the black swing vote wants ridiculous things. For starters, they want reparations. That's a no-go. Nobody's going for that. And I'm surprised that the Democrats just won't come out and say that they're going to do reparations. They'll do it at the state level. I mean, they're doing it in California. They're doing it here in Detroit. They're doing it in Chicago. We're going to look into reparations. And then everybody's looking around like, what are you talking about? We're going to look into it. We're going to study reparations. And that right there is a no-go. There would be nothing wrong with a black voting bloc if they didn't ask for ridiculous shit. That reparations is more than likely a no-go. It's just not going to work. Now, there are some, I think, policies that you could say are reparations that might work. For instance, targeting some of these universities that own slaves or that had slaves, which I think that they have actually started to do. That might work. If you might say, how would, that you have to, it's still a violation of the 14th Amendment to say black people have to come to the university for free while white people have to pay. You can't do that. So what they can do is if you can prove your ancestors were enslaved by that university, then you get to go to the university for free. So that might work. That's something that could work. Whatever it is they were trying to do in Tulsa with the Black Wall Street thing, that was a disaster. And most people, again, didn't read the lawsuit, didn't know what they were suing for, didn't understand the laws, didn't read the judges when they shot it down, but it became a PR thing that they won't even give reparations to the living victims of Black Wall Street because they brought out all these old Black people, people 90 some odd years old, man. They're in wheelchairs on oxygen tanks, and people are shoving cameras in front of their face. How do you feel about not getting reparations? It's like, come on, man. You can't do shit like that. If you're not going to argue stuff on the merits, but instead you're going to argue emotionally and try to emotionally blackmail the entire state of the entire state of Oklahoma into giving these, and not even giving them directly money. They didn't even ask for money. That's the weird thing. It was basically like a traditional reparations is, I have been wronged, and I was wronged in this way by the government. The Chinese or the Japanese internment camps, right? They round up Japanese people for no good reason, throw them in internment camps. After this was during World War II. So afterwards, they turned around and sued the state for reparations. They ended up getting it because, for starters, they could prove that they were victims of being interned for no reason other than being Japanese. And then they asked for damages. But that's not what the reparations, quote unquote, reparations lawsuit in Tulsa was asking for. They didn't ask even for what they were talking about was unjust enrichment, was that the state of Oklahoma, specifically the city of Tulsa, was building museums and different things like that off the back of Black Wall Street. And they wanted to divert money from the city to different programs, of course, because a lot of left wing, their shit is funded through the taxpayer. So that's pretty much what they were trying to do, is create a permanent plug of taxpayer money into far left activities or whatever. It was a lot of that money wasn't even going to go to the elders. All right. But then you run into the problem of the city of Tulsa didn't cause Black Wall Street. The city of Tulsa didn't burn down Tulsa. That's not what happened. It was a riot. That's what happened. It was a massacre. It was a riot. That's what happened. A bunch of private citizens got into a fight and they started fires. That's what happened. And yeah, it became a very famous thing that the state used as a tourist attraction. That is a fact. But it's not like, and I think what the judges said, I'm doing it off the top of my head because I don't have it in front of me, is that there was no contract between the people who are suing and the state to say that they would get money from this. So how is their money owed? How is there unjust enrichment? You were not defrauded. You were not manipulated or anything like that. What is the mode of unjust enrichment? And because these lawyers were woke idiots, they thought they could emotionally blackmail the entire state into just giving them money. But these people are on their deathbed. It doesn't work like that. But that's I said earlier, you're making the people stupider. These people are stupid, and they came out of law school and they just make stupid arguments because sometimes it actually works. And they get a woke judge or a couple of woke judges, and they can play that manipulative game on them and get whatever projects that they want funded through class action lawsuits, which now we've learned from John Stossel are absolute scams. And they get to use that money to fund not only themselves, but also their favorite programs. But it didn't work this time. It didn't work. Look it up. I think I still got it on my. I read the lawsuit, but I really felt bad for the elders because they got roped into this thing. This thing took 2 years or something like that, and it's like these people are old, man. You making them relive this stuff over and over and over again, telling them that there's money in it for them. But in reality, you're not even asking for damages or anything like that. You're not even asking for the state to stop doing it. You're just trying to get your plug on. Just give us a piece. And by us, you don't even mean the elders. Of course, they're going to get something, but you're really looking at trying to divert money towards a favorite program, which is bullshit. But most people don't even know nothing about that. Very sad. WG feels as if the right thinks running Matt Walsh Republicans are going back to the censorship right, they'll lose a lot of the minority voters. Oh, yeah, they're ready to give it up. They're ready to shut it down. They have a certain idea of what a Republican is, and that's what they want. They want the boring, milk toast father of three who is never going to go step too far out of line, who is going to be offended by Beyonce wearing high heels on stage, and they're going to lose everybody, not just minorities. It's going to lose everybody. They're going to look like sticks in the mud who are not fun, not interesting, boring, and guys who married their childhood sweethearts so they don't understand real people. And it's going to be over with. That's, again, a lot of Trump's faults. What the Republicans see as faults, like him banging porn stars, him hanging around with supermodels and stuff like that. That's the stuff that actually makes him a little bit more relatable to average people, because they're like, okay, he has like a regular sexual appetite. He talks kind of vulgar. He's not trying to be too preppy. And because of that, he's not so judgmental. We're not even sure what Trump's religion is. Like he's not walking around with the Bible, quoting. You're not gonna Craig G. Lewis send you to hell. you know, you listen to rap music, go to hell. He's not gonna do that. He's not gonna say you're reading them dirty comic books, go to hell. You're reading that Japanese, go to hell. He's not gonna do that. But then you got these Matt Walsh types. They think there's something weird about men having book bags. It's like, oh, these guys are fucking losers, man. They're losers, bro. Once those, start shirt types start taking over again, it's over. They're done for. They're done for. So on a positive note, though, there are some people who are looking at, the America First movement and specifically, minorities, blacks, Latinos, etc., who are going to pick it up and run with it. Vivek is not bad, but he's kind of a middle of the road, stiff shirt kind of guy. But his religion is weird. He's Indian. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. But it's going to have to take somebody with some real charisma. And all the stiff neck Republicans are going to hate him because he's not conservative enough. Trump not conservative at all, really. That's what people don't really get. That's why a lot of quote unquote conservatives don't like him, because Trump is not really conservative at all. He doesn't pass judgment on people for having abortions, even though he wants abortions in the states, which is the appropriate venue for it. He doesn't really judge people for having abortions. He doesn't really judge people for being gay. He doesn't really judge people for, well, he talks a lot about criminals and illegal immigrants, but a lot of the social shit that the Daily Wire types are always up in arms about, Trump doesn't really pay too much attention to that stuff. And to them, it's the most important thing in the world that, these guys are cheating on their wives or something like that. And Trump, who gives a fuck? Who cares if these people are having affairs? We should be focusing on the economy, building stuff, making sure the average person can buy a banana, that kind of shit. That's stuff that people can relate to. Even if you don't like them, you can at least relate to that. So what they tried to do, they tried to make Trump revolting to the Republican Party, and they successfully did that. That was easy. As soon as he showed up with that orange tan and doing weird dances, and the way he talks about certain people, his his cute nicknames he used to give people. Um, that was more than enough to get certain people to hate him. But you can't when he doesn't really seem to care that much about how you live your life. It's hard to beat that, especially when those other people really do. They really care about how you live your life. What's your favorite DBZ saga? Namek slash Frieza. It was infinitely the most interesting, and I think it was probably the best written of the series, with the exception of Goku taking forever to get to Namek. I mean, he just took forever to get there. Other than that, it was a fantastically written series. The androids was pretty fun too, but I'm also a big fan like the OG Dragon Ball, the Red Ribbon Army, the King Tenkaichi Budokais, which I think was the 23rd was my favorite. Was the 23rd the one where that was Goku versus Tien the first time, or when Goku was kid? Because I like that tournament. And then the second one was that was the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai. And I think the 23rd is when Goku was a late teen. So I liked all that stuff. I really liked the writing of the early Dragon Ball. I think Toriyama got tired around around the androids. It just seemed like there was some thoughts there, and it was fun. Like the androids and Cell, it ruled. Okay, it was great, but it wasn't as tight as it was before then. It was really tight before then. Lisa Elsie says, "Are you familiar with Bruce's beach controversy? It was resort land owned by a black family in SoCal. It was wrongfully seized in the '60s. They got it back 3 years ago, but sold it back for $20 million." Wow. No, I wasn't familiar with that. I need to look into that. You know what? To be quite honest, a lot of people are not familiar with a lot of Black history. Yeah, a lot of people, and I've learned this from listening to Hotep histories. There's a guy, um, I forget what his name is. Hotep Dubes, Dobbs. He has a YouTube channel called Hotep Histories. I also follow him on Twitter. And he talks a lot about the positive stuff in Black history. Specifically, like there used to be all Black towns, which is towns that were started by Black people, specifically in places like Oklahoma. Like people think Tulsa was the only one. No, we used to own and started our own towns. I think Boley, Oklahoma was started by Black people, you know? And when you see stuff like that, man, it really opens your mind and expands what you could what you think Black people are and what they can do. It's like there's so many Black people today that don't know anything about Booker T. Washington, that he literally built Tuskegee with his bare hands. And this guy used to be a slave. And, him and his students and the teachers built Tuskegee with their bare hands. All right. He went around the country doing speeches, to get money to continue building the school. Most people don't even know anything about this guy. You know, they know his name because, his name's been thrown around here and there, but he's all been a lot of what people know about Booker T. Washington comes from his enemies, which was like the W.B. Du Bois side of Black America, which were the politics first intellectuals, quote unquote. One day we're going to go through and we're going to do W.B. Du Bois versus Booker T. I'm doing like a lecture series or something on those guys. So I just read Dr. Claude Anderson. I just read Powernomics. I had never read it before this year. I hate that book. By the way, I hate it. But and I didn't know that Dr. Claude Anderson was a doctor of education, not economics, which explains when you read the book, which of course, as soon as I crack the book open, it says doctor, then it has ED. I'm like, oh, fuck. He's been running around for 20 years talking about economics and politics. He's a doctor of education. Oh, well, it don't matter. It don't matter. Look, he's a very learned man. And there's some things in there that I agree with. But there's a lot of stuff in there that I don't like. But what I specifically didn't like was how he trash talked Booker T. Washington. I didn't like it. It's like Booker T. Washington built a black institution with his bare hands. I mean, and he saw a need and he filled it with his bare hands. How many Negroes can say that? It took 10 years, 20 years for Dr. Umar to get a school, and it's still not up and running. This man was born a slave and built a school. I've seen dudes just get a copy machine and copy pages out of a book and have a classroom in his own basement. I don't like that kind of shit, but I see it all the time. You know, I've been reading the Negro classics. It's not good stuff. Not good stuff. BEP says the problem with reparations, if passed, is that the endowment fund will be managed by BlackRock, and the money will go to light-skinned females to go work at NXT. Oh yeah, they're gonna start up an OnlyFans. You know, Jada Parker's gonna walk away with everybody's reparations. Shit, it's gonna be sad. She's gonna be on the top Billboard billionaires list. She's gonna have enough money to buy OnlyFans. D says, to be honest, I believe there will never true in this country nor the world. I don't understand. You believe there will never true what? Tege says there is only for human races, Black, Western, Eurasian, which include Europe and the Middle East, Eastern Eurasian, which includes East Asia, Southern Eurasia, which includes indigenous people of Australia. You can say it's only 4 human races. Well, technically there's only one race, the human race, but there's obviously genetic differences between people. I think that the idea that people are, again, they're going with this whole thing that there's no such thing as race. It's like, come on, man. You think all those slanty-eyed people in Asia, all that shit just happened by accident? Oh, there's like 60 million accidents of people having slanty eyes. No, this shit's genetic. You know, it is what it is. And some people's genetics are different. It's, environment and it's diet, which is largely, a product of your environment and all that kind of stuff that goes into it. It doesn't necessarily have to be because people are different, then one has to be better than another. That's the bullshit when people put into it. You can respect that things are different without saying that one thing is better than another. Tigers and lions, they both exist. Do we have to say that one is better than the other? Jaguars, panthers, tigers, and lions are all giant cats. They're different creatures, though. And they're genetically different, meaning that, they struggle to interbreed. Tigers and lions will give birth to something that is a genetic anomaly that cannot reproduce. It's not the same thing can be said for Black people and white people or Black people and Asians, etc. That's why you say there's only one race, the human race, because we can reproduce with other people on the planet without our offspring being sterile. At the same time, though, to ignore that all these Somalians are running around with gigantic fucking heads, or these people in the Sudan aren't born with like super long limbs, is just a lie. It's a fucking lie. There's a reason why we say people are nilotic. That means that they're extremely dark skinned with really long limbs. And they look like aliens. Somalians look like aliens. They look like Yaqub. And the Sudanese, they look like aliens. They look like phantoms or some shit. Like you see like the Slender Man or something. And you have those Japanese people with their slanty eyes and shit. And the Chinese with their high yellow skin and slanty eyes. And people are different. People are different. That doesn't mean you have to be better or worse. WG Field said, did you see Elizabeth Warren get embodied about her trash and crypto? But she got hush-moded about the Chase settlement for helping Epstein. Holy shit. That's what that was about. I saw a clip, but the guy was talking about how he was raped as a child. And I was like, oh, holy hell, I want to watch this. I didn't know that this was about Epstein. I need to go and look at that. D says, I believe there will there will be true peace in this country. Never be true peace. Okay, I agree with you. Um, War and aggression is as part of human nature as anything else. We have to learn how to manage aggression. We need to learn how to manage conflict, and we don't need to have full scale wars anymore. Now you can punish people by turning off their electricity and turning off their water, overthrowing their government. Like if this was the 1920s or some shit, we'd have been at war a bunch of times by now. Like most people who are anti-war, you know, um, they don't want to put boots on the ground, and some of them don't even want economic sanctions. But that seems to be the favorite among people nowadays. They want to do economic sanctions. WG Phil says he think the Android saga was the peak of Dragon Ball, and it was the perfect balance uh, of transformation, story, and fights. I think that the Android saga was pretty good. It was a good balance of creating danger, the danger legitimately being dangerous, and that's the one thing about Dragon Ball that I always really like is how much weight they give the threat, and then the threat lives up to it. Like the threat literally lives up to it. Um, I wasn't a big fan of Boo and Jiren though, because I always thought they were just insanely powerful, and there was no explanation for how powerful they were. But Boo was at least fun. He was a fun character. The Boo saga gets a lot of hate. It does, and it gets a lot of hate because of how long it went on. If the fusions, and I stand by this, if the fusions would have defeated Majin Buu, we wouldn't hate it so much. Like if it was, well, they need to learn how to fuse in order, and Goten and Trunks fused together and defeated Majin Buu. That would have been a better ending than Buu goes through 4 different forms. Goku and Vegeta are inside of Boo's stomach. Buu eats everybody. Like it was like a lot going on. But that was Dragon Ball being a victim of capitalism, and that is it makes so much money that they want it to continue, even when they have no more to say, even when there was nothing else to go on. And I think GT was that too. GT Evolution, a lot of that stuff, the late stage Buu Saga. Even though I think the Buu Saga finished strong, I think it finished really strong. Especially Vegeta's character arc really finished very well in the Buu Saga. But it seemed like okay, we're done here. We got no more left. And then they kept trying to find more in Dragon Ball. They kept trying to find more. And then they found more because Toriyama got involved again. He was motivated to actually do some stuff, and we got Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, and things were okay again. Now Dragon Ball can tell stories again. So Toei, you know, they they must have tied Toriyama up in the basement and started, pumping his brain or whatever. Because they started getting a lot of stuff out of nowhere. They got that manga, even though he didn't want to draw it. But they got him to work on the manga. They got him to do a lot of stuff before he died. Apparently they also got another movie that's about to come out. So everything's going to work out just fine. The problem is going to be once Daima is over, and that's going to be the last long form project that Toriyama worked on. And then once that movie comes out, whatever that may be, and we don't know if that's going to be Dragon Ball Super or a Dragon Ball Daima movie. We're not sure what it's going to be. It's going to be an interesting time. So that's when things are going to get really weird for Dragon Ball. It's going to get really weird. The M Studios, do you think the booking of the main roster needs a creative reset? Personally, I want to see WWE without Judgment Day in the Bloodline. Uh, I'm not going to say no Bloodline. Judgment Day, I agree with you. I want Judgment Day to go away. It's just a menagerie of people that exist seemingly for no reason at this point. But I like the Bloodline. I don't want to rush it. I want it to come to a logical conclusion. And I'm pretty sure the logical conclusion will likely end with Roman Reigns retiring. And it's almost that time anyway. Buddy's almost 40. And I think he's made enough money to hang it up. I don't think he wants to take bumps at 45. So Gozu94 says, talking about OnlyFans, you hear about the Gucci third leg nonsense. You know what? Against my will, I have heard of it. That he's been going around giving girls herpes. Oh, see, that's what happens when you dealing with whores. And you know, he's a male whore who was paying OnlyFans models to have sex with him. And he was giving them herpes. Yikes. WG Phil said, did Samantha settle for Ricochet? Once she revealed she was a single mom, I knew it was too good to be true. You know what? I thought that was humorous myself. When I saw the tweet she put out yesterday, and she was talking about, I think her dad passing away or somebody passed away. And she said she had a 3-year-old son or 3-month-old son or something like that when her dad passed away. And I was like, she got a baby? And I was like, oh, that explains why Ricochet was able to get her that. Ricochet got kids too, though. Like, I think he had 2. So they each bringing kids to the table. Sam is a winner. You know, she looks fantastic. She's very talented. But single mom strike. Very easy. Do I like the Nexus theme song? I haven't heard it in a while. When you asked me that, it didn't come to mind. Human is not a race. It is a subspecies of Homo sapien. Interesting. Do I like the Miz's theme song? Yes, I do. I like the Miz's theme song. What do you see as Trick Williams' ceiling on the main roster? Intercontinental Champion. Should be WWE Champion, but Triple H is not going to book Trick Williams to be the top guy in the company. He has so much charisma, so much personality. He's going to be a John Cena type guy where it may take him 10 years to get good in the ring, but he's good on the mic and people like him. So it's going to work. You know, he's going to get over. But is Triple H going to give him the space that he needs to get over? And looking at he's booking everybody else, no. Because LA Knight's strong suit is talking too. And you see what he's doing with him. He doesn't let him talk and go out there and get over. So no. Trick Williams has the potential to be the WWE champion, but is it going to happen for him? Probably not. Probably not. What's my opinion on Dana White? Dana White's hilarious. He's a very unique case in terms of he's a guy who believed in a sport, you know, when other people didn't. And they give him shit about it all the time. The UFC, MMA fans, they hate Dana White. But he's cocky because he believed in the sport. He knows what it took to build the sport. He's very protective of it, you know, and he's very protective of the company, even though he's not the owner. He's more protective of the company than the actual owners have always been. You know, he was more protective than the Fertittas were, you know? So he's a flawed human being. Of course, I saw him slap his wife. That wasn't fun. He thinks this stupid power slap thing is good. I don't understand what that's all about. Yes, we human beings want to see each other get knocked out, but I don't think anybody wants to see slap fighting. I still have not seen that slap fighting is going to change the world. So that's weird. But I generally think that Dana White is a net positive, and MMA would not be what it is without him. He may have started it, but he certainly popularized it. He brought in a lot of the pro wrestling elements that he borrowed, I guess you could say, from Vince, and made UFC huge. And it worked, you know, it really worked. And MMA was already big in Japan, but it hadn't really crossed over in the United States because they were trying to protect boxing. Oh, yeah, John McCain. Oh, it's human cockfighting. He was trying to protect boxing. An idiot. But, you know, he did the legwork of going to get it deregulated in many states. He, you know, took the calculated risk to do it. I think that that's a good entrepreneurial spirit. And when you're dealing with somebody like that, they're gonna have a certain attitude. They're not gonna be a pushover. They're not gonna be the kind of person that is going to be easily controlled by the mob or controlled by politicians. They're going to have certain opinions. He's a builder. He's not a manager. He's continuously trying to grow the sport. Managers come in and they start doing, oh, like when he started, like, he banned flags for a while. Like, that was bullshit, you know? And he realized, I think, over time that that's something a manager would do. That's not something a builder would do. Builders take risks. Managers try to manage the risk. They come in when things are already stable and they just keep things running. You know, while builders, they take the risks. And people always talk shit about the builders because they always fuck up stuff. Vince McMahon is perfect for that. They make fun of Ico Pro and Tout and all that shit. But he took risks. And the company wouldn't exist without people who took risks. And UFC wouldn't exist without Dana White being willing to take certain risks, even though it wasn't his money, even though he was like a minority owner of the company for a while. He was able to take those risks and manage the risks for the people who owned it. And now he's still doing that. And he's good at it. Um, the fact that the fans hate him is humorous to me, if we're being honest. BEEP says, at per WGP, Ricochet's new thing and gimmick should be Brandon Jamal's Now You Single Mom. D says, how much you want to bet they make Cooler Cannon for the next movie? I wouldn't be surprised. Storiyama seemed like he was just taking ideas from Toei and refurbishing them. Like, Toei wanted to do, he saw a Tree of Might, which I don't think he had too much to do with, and he took that and refurbished it into the Goku Black arc. He took Broly and Bardock and he switched those things around. He just took some ideas and decided to work with it. It's just less brain power that he had to expend. So I wouldn't be surprised if expanding on Frieza's family isn't something that he might want to be interested in doing. But Frieza being the only one of his kind makes him interesting in the story. M Studios, what do you think about these red pill podcasts like Fresh and Fit? Red pill podcasting, red pill videos. There was a time when I watched a lot of that stuff, and I thought that stuff was very interesting. And they still do make some valid points. The problem with the red pill is it eventually leads to the black pill, and you start getting into the gender wars to the point where you don't trust women, you don't trust men, you don't trust anyone. You're judging people you never met in circumstances you've never been in. Now, there are some things that are, truths that you will get about dating and stuff like that. But you have to realize that a lot of these quote unquote red pill guys, they only come in two types. The super pathetic types, which tend to be somewhere near the MGTOW area. These are very smart guys who understand female nature, but they have a problem getting dates, they have a problem maintaining dates, or they're jilted or they're pissed off or whatever. And they tend to be in the more loser brigade. So they make all the excuses for losers to why they can't date women. And then you have the extreme other end, the Andrew Tates, the guys who drive Maseratis and spend 12 hours in the gym and they got, untold amounts of money, and their ideas absolutely can't help anybody because these guys are millionaires and the average person is not a millionaire. You're not going to bang hot models and, think that, Sydney Sweeney is a 6 or some stupid shit, like that kind of stuff. And it makes people delusional. Like that kind of shit, none of that stuff is helpful, Average Joe dating advice is fine. But extreme red pill content in either direction is not really going to work out for you. You know, but it's useful if you want to understand male female nature, gender based laws. All that stuff can be entertaining and interesting, and you can learn about that. Um, learned a lot about the gender wars, the war on boys in schools, um, the family court, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's great for that. But when you got these guys who are so cocky that they're like, Rihanna, she's a 5.5, dog. She ran through. Like, okay, well, this is stupid. Okay, whatever. Easter Sunday says, evening. I can tell you the problem if you are so inclined. I am interested. What is the problem? Red pillar equals incels. Not all of them are incels. You know, um, incels tend to be more black pilled than anything. Um, but the two types of incels are pretty ridiculous too, bro. Like the incels that blame the men, with like the supreme gentleman was kind of incel that blamed the women, but he was kind of more of a black pill, hate both sides kind of psychopath. But a lot of incels will blame men and their simpish male feminist types. You know, why do women date men who are abusive and loud and violent and they're cheaters? And then you have the incels who don't trust women. All women are whores, all women are bitches. That stuff's not going to work out for you. Easter Sunday says the base problem is that as human beings, we socialized in traditional ways for thousands of years. True. Have I seen the New Jack rant on Chris Benoit? I have not. Do you like the Rock's 2002 theme song? Yes, the Hollywood Rock theme. I liked it. I thought it was good. I like his theme song now too. Um, with it's all been remixes of his same theme, which is great. To have a theme song for 20 some odd years, you just remix it. Like the final boss theme was great, especially with the entrance. It rules. Either way, Sneeko is a cook. I have no idea who Sneeko is. um, WG Field says, I think the incels are winning with their ideology. More I see how women act. I think one thing that people have to recognize is that there are a lot of people who are they're financially incentivized to make the other side look worse. So once money starts coming into play, there's um, there's people who post like these Reddit things about you know um, me 19 and my girlfriend 18 have been dating for 10 years and we've been trying to have a baby, and all of a sudden the baby is brown and she says she has a Cuban uncle. It's like, come on, this shit is clearly fake. It's about as real as some of those stories in like Soldier of Fortune magazine, but it might connect with people who are concerned about being cucked, you know and that's one of what people fear. like uh Easter Sunday is saying, we've been socialized to being concerned about that. The whole point of pair bonding is to further your own genetics. What's the point of pair bonding if somebody else is going to be you furthering their genetics on your dime? What the hell is the point of that? The 2002 thing was the invasion thing. Dude, maybe I don't remember that. It says, in recent years, the human race has completely changed the way we socialize. Socialization and reproduction go hand in hand. We are not above the animal kingdom. I agree with that. Society by smartphone is akin to a human Calhoun experiment, either online validation as the unlimited resource. Okay, I see. I think I see where you're going with this. Um, AJ3 says, sorry to tell you, I sent you an email, which was a link to the clip of Rizza Islam talking about APAC, Trump and Kamala and their funders. I'm gonna watch it for sure. I'm gonna watch it and probably give my thoughts in the Discord because I'm very interested in that. What's your opinion, site? I don't know. What's your opinion on Rikishi Vince Russo situation? You know what? I thought I talked about this, but I didn't. Maybe I didn't. Because I thought I was gonna bring it up on Raw. That was my plan, was to bring it up in the Raw review. But maybe Jey Uso wasn't on TV long enough. But Rikishi was very upset at Vince Russo. So to set the stage a little bit, Vince Russo was talking about Jey Uso winning the Intercontinental title and how the title is just a prop and why is he so emotional over winning a prop and yada yada yada, just basically talking dumb shit. So Rikishi got mad at him for saying that Vince Russo doesn't understand what what wrestlers go through, what Jay went through 14 years of being in the business and finally reaching a certain level that he never thought he could reach, and how emotional that is for him, how much it means to the family, all of that stuff. And Vince Russo, I mean, he backed down, of course, over time, but he was also getting a lot of backlash for that. And whenever he starts doing that, the title is a prop, and people start going after him for it. And you have to realize, and he ended up coming to this conclusion on his own, that he was never a wrestler. And so he keeps saying, I was a writer and a producer, bro. My thoughts are different than their thoughts, bro. It's like, well, you should not ask stupid ass questions. See, the title was a prop when you won it, and nobody else cared. And that's his ego in the way. You would think that situation, him winning the title or putting the title on David Arquette, and the amount of heat that he got for it, he was smarting up and realized that the title is not just a prop to the people, to both the fans and the wrestlers. It means something. But he's just so arrogant that he thinks that his way is right. And here he is 20 years later, more than 20 years later, saying the same shit. It's just a prop, bro. It's like you have learned nothing. In all these years that you've been floating around the wrestling business, you haven't learned a damn thing. Now, Rikishi went too far when he said he was going to fight him. That was too far. But him going after him was perfectly logical because you don't understand that this guy was a tag team wrestler for a decade. Never thought he'd get this far, on his own. And he did. And it means something to him. Like, not understanding people's personal achievements is crazy, Even if it is an achievement that was decided in a boardroom, it's still a big moment. And part of the reason it was such a big moment isn't even that he won it, because he knew he was going to win. It's the fans' reaction, how the fans accept him in that role. Like you can put me as the Intercontinental Champion, but if the crowd shits on it, or they're like, "Ugh, what is this?" or if they're quiet and they're silent or whatever, that's a different feel. He got like an Eddie Guerrero like response when he won the Intercontinental title, like he had won the world title or something, and that meant something to him. All his hard work finally, paying off. That means something. And Vince Russo's a moron who don't get it. Just don't get it. What's my thoughts on Raquel Rodriguez being in the Judgment Day? Well, I asked for it because I said that Liv needed a heater, so I can't complain too much. I just hope this Judgment Day thing. I heard they're taking Carlito out of the group eventually. I think he's gonna get kicked out, but I hope that this thing runs its course really quickly. I don't think Dominic needs a Judgment Day anymore. I don't think Finn needs them anymore. And I don't think it's really furthering anybody's story anymore. They lose pretty much all the time. So I think they should be disbanded, if we're being honest. But Liv and Dominic and Raquel doesn't need to be in Judgment Day. Finn doesn't need to be in Judgment Day to team with JD McDonough. And Carlito, what the hell is he even doing there in the first place? Do I like Mark Henry's theme song? Yes, I do. Lorenzo, imagine Ricochet chasing Mama Wayne as a MILF loving gimmick. So he causes Christians tall milk mommy gimmick. Death by Snoo Snoo. That's terrible. Just as animals cannot reproduce in captivity, the human race ain't gonna make it through the dating apps. You have to meet her in the wild, is my advice. I agree with this absolutely. You have to know. I think guys, what was that advice I gave to that youngin? You have to fish and hunt in your own community. Like part of the dating apps is all of the women are picking the same guys. So that's why certain guys can get on dating apps and just slay like 15 broads because they're the kind of guys that these chicks are looking for in terms of pictures and profiles and all that kind of stuff. In the wild, you can talk to somebody, you have time to, gauge personality. And if you date somebody that is into the same things you're into, like if you have a hunting ground as like a library or, video games or something like that, you're more likely to find somebody that's into what you're into. And you're more likely to get along. It's a lot better that way, being honest. He says Rikishi is talking smack, he's getting validated through his subscribers. That's true. AJ3 says, don't ever talk about Samoans or Tongans, they're real niggas. They're niggas. Well, they're street. Like, they out here getting shot, going to jail. Like, how many of them Anawai's have been in jail? I think almost all of them except Roman. And I think like Roman might be the only one that ain't been in jail. Shit. Russo is a narrow-minded hypocrite. That is absolutely true. Putting the Freebird rule on the tag titles will allow for interfaction storytelling and angles. Yeah, I don't know why they don't do the Freebird rule with the Judgment Day. They've been more than a trio. They've been a quadruplet for a while now, but they haven't done anything with the tag team belts on Raw in forever anyway. What was in Minnesota's water that produced the crop of monster wrestlers in the 80s? That's a good question. And I think it's the gym. Because a lot of those guys met at the same gym. Rick Rude, Rick Rude and Mr. Perfect grew up together. But the Road Warriors, they came out at the gym. There was a bunch of other dudes who worked out at that same gym. And I think that's what it was. Just like in Texas, they had the West Texas State University, where basically the Funks was connected to that program, and they were able to get a bunch of wrestlers like Stan Hansen and I think Ted DiBiase and a couple of other guys right out of college. Some of them weren't going to finish college anyway, but they got them right out of college to go wrestle in Amarillo, and it was pretty much the same thing where a lot of those guys were coming out of the gym. Vern Gagne was not really interested in muscle guys because he wanted you to have like an athletic background. A lot of those guys were like big, gym rats who were bouncers at the clubs and all that. So, but I believe it was like the gym culture at the time, pretty much is what led to it. Like a lot of football coaches, performance coaches, etc. That guy who was the strength and conditioning coach for Brian Pillman, his name was Ken Wood, I think his name was. He was in the Brian Pillman documentary. He was very heavily featured through the Brian Pillman book. He was the reason Pillman got into pro wrestling because Pillman was pretty much in football and he hooked him up with some with wrestling and stuff. So that's why a lot of people, believe it or not, got into pro wrestling. Like former football players, their strength coaches or whatever would get them involved. So I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It was guys working out at the gym, see this other jack dude over there. Hey, you ever think about getting into wrestling? Yeah, I thought about that. I can make some money. Hell yeah. And you just recruit them. That's what what's the name did? Shit, the guy in California. What's his name? He found Warrior and Sting, Rick Bassman. Warrior, Sting, John Cena, uh, Samoa Joe, Melina, The Miz. There was somebody else, a bunch of other people too. But he's most known for being the original guy who found John Cena, Sting, and the Ultimate Warrior. Do you think Vince McMahon is going to be erased like Chris Benoit? If he takes a L on this lawsuit, probably. If he ends up going to prison, absolutely. If he goes to prison, he absolutely will be erased. But if he beats the case, maybe not. If he beats the case, probably not. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. Let's say he does beat the case. Not immediately afterwards. They'll probably wait like a year or so, and then he'll come right back. He'll be back. If not, to do backstage in a backstage area, he'll probably come back on to do something on screen to say goodbye or something like that. But especially if business starts to turn downward and Vince has been cleared of any wrongdoing, he'll certainly be back on TV. If for nothing, then to do Mr. McMahon all over again. But if he gets found guilty of something or whatever, then yeah, he's going to get nuked from orbit. And Endeavor has every reason to do that. And I wouldn't be surprised, depending on what's going on with them, if they don't help them. And that was when I was looking at the stories before, and I was talking about Ann Callis asking WWE to lift the NDAs. If they do that, I'll know that the company is conspiring against him, and because the company would at some point have made a deal to basically throw him out, and he's already gone, but basically to sacrifice him so that they can move forward, which is what companies do quite often. But they haven't done it yet. But I fully expect them, if they're in on it, to go ahead and do that. And then he will be erased forever. He says, I tried approaching for my final semester for community college. Mostly I got boyfriends. Yeah. Yeah. That's why you got to keep going. He says, Koshan R says, thoughts on Cody Rhodes and Gunther facing each other for Crown Jewel Championship. It's stupid. It's dumb. I don't like that belt. Mike the Don says, what makes a rivalry great? The matches or the story? Well, the matches can be the story, like a Flair and Steamboat. Or the story could make the matches, like Undertaker and Kane. I think it has to be something in the middle. Piper and Hogan was a great story. How many great matches did they have? Like, think about that for a second. Piper was the number one heel of the 80s. How many matches did him and Hogan have? Didn't have a lot. It really only had the one televised match. The war to settle the score and the end of disqualification. And that was before WrestleMania. Then they did the WrestleMania big tag match. But that ended up being a great story, with Piper being sort of, Hogan being the catalyst for the rock and wrestling. And then Piper comes in, he hates rock music and he hates current pop culture. He, is just being very sharp-witted and stuff like that. That was great. Then you got the Mega Powers, and that ended up really, it took a year to get to one match between Hogan and Savage. They had matches after that, sure, but they told a year-long story just to get to WrestleMania 5, and it was legit. So I'm more of a story guy. That doesn't mean that great matches can't end up with a great trilogy of matches or whatever. But sometimes we're really only going to remember the trilogy anyway. Like when it comes to Brett and Owen, great marriage of story and wrestling matches, we only remember the first two. of those matches. And they had quite a few. Right? They had another match after the cage match on like Action Zone or something. I think it ended in disqualification. It was after Owens' title run. I mean, title run. His main event run was over. But that was a great story, and it continued after their cage match with Owen manipulating Mom into throwing in the towel to cost Brett the belt, which is amazing. Which is amazing, by the way. He said it's hard to tell whether they're telling the truth or not. They're probably lying, but it don't matter. You know, um, when it comes to dating and stuff like this, you're gonna fail more than you succeed. That's just the nature of the beast. You just got to keep going. You're eventually gonna stumble across some girl. She might be in the middle of something, or she might even have a boyfriend, and you never know. WWE Survivor Series 2010. That's way too obscure for me. I have no idea what that is. Um, with the Freebird rule, you can have more wrestlers change fewer titles while eliminating the need for trios titles. Imagine an example: all 4 men of the Judgment Day defending those titles. That would probably be better. Um, I don't like the trios idea anyway. If we're being honest, it just seems very extra. I don't need why you get 6-man title. But I like the Freebird rule. If the group has been together for like New Day, it works. Demolition, I like that. You know, but like Judgment Day could work under the Freebird rule, but which probably would have been the best option if you were going to have Finn have a solo feud. You could have had Carlito defend the belt with JD McDonough as his partner because they're all in the same stable anyway. That probably would have been a better way of doing things, but they refuse to do things right. People confuse amateur wrestling with pro wrestling. Not many. Not many people do that. Do I like boxing? To a degree, yes. I watch big fights. I don't just watch boxing now. Easter Sunday. Vince McMahon is the P.T. Barnum of this era. If they couldn't put Harvey Weinstein away, the DA has no chance in hell. The fact that it's taken so long to indict him, when it didn't take that long to indict Diddy, is really kind of raising my eyebrow. Like, it didn't take long at all when it came to Diddy. They went into his house, they found guns, baby oil, drugs. I'm like, wait a minute, why this guy got drugs and guns in his house? But when it comes to Vince, they ain't found shit apparently because they haven't said anything yet. You know, it's like they got his computers, his cell phone. You know, no doubt they've checked into his bank accounts and all this kind of stuff too. And it's taking forever for them to find something on this guy. You know, if they end up having to drop the case, that's going to be a real blow to the Janelle Grant lawsuit because they're going to be like, holy shit, he can't get arrested for sex trafficking. They're going to have to at least indict him, right? At least try to. Her case is not over if the feds can't indict him, but people are going to start asking questions if there's no indictment, you know? So, but it ought to be interesting. Do I like TNA? To a degree, yes. I watch the pay-per-views. I watch the show. Um, it just so happens that TNA is something I watch on the weekends, like NWA Power. Like I watch TNA on Saturday mornings, and I may watch Power in the afternoons or something. Um, but I sometimes skip the NWA, but I watched the last 2 episodes on Twitter, so I saw that EC3 lost the belt, which was ridiculous because he lost it to like Tom Latimer. I'm like, that's weird, but whatever. Why is it taking forever for WWE to split Austin Theory and Grayson Waller so Austin Theory can be on his own as a babyface? They've been teasing this for months. I don't think that they have a plan. You know, I think if they break them up, the plan is for them to have a match, and then what? Because you look at the mid card of SmackDown right now. They're probably better off as a tag team if they're going to be on TV. because Austin Theory has just gone down, 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 down. And at this point, he'll probably leave Grayson Waller and end up getting pinned by Grayson Waller. Everybody likes AJ Styles all the time. Same thing with John Cena. The Miz was very fun. 2010, he was a U.S. champ in 2010, but he's on his way to the main event. I think he might have won the belt in 2010 because he was a Money in the Bank winner too. I think it's fair to say I like the Miz. The Miz is pretty good. Great character. How long do you think Jimmy will convince Jay to join them and Roman at War Games against the Bloodline 2.0? Do you think Sami Zayn will join them? It's interesting, the Sami Zayn question, because I think people want Sami Zayn with them. And Sami Zayn isn't doing anything else, so it might make sense for him to be with them. But something tells me that something's going to happen that's going to bring Jay and them together. And him winning the Intercontinental title seemingly out of nowhere seemed like a great catalyst for the new bloodline that cost Jay the title and for him to get mad and rejoin the bloodline. That seemed like the right way to do it. SmackDown in 2011. Oh, that's too specific. I don't remember. BEP says, should Moxley's next inspiration be to rip off Yu Yu Hakusho's Dark Tournament, or he become older Tagoro or younger Tagoro? That would be sweet if he forced everybody to the pit fight like he was like his blood sport. Like, but he would have to have some kind of level of control, though, wouldn't he? That he could just change the rules and take the posts down, take the ropes down, and force these guys to fight in the middle of the ring with no ropes. You know, that kind of stuff. That could be fun. But he would have to have some kind of like legitimate authority in order to do that, right? But I like the idea of a dark tournament in AEW. That could be fun. That's a really good wrestling angle. And you know, with all the mini teams, because there's always going to be a bunch of factions anyway floating around in AEW, and there's going to be a bunch of people looking for opportunities to. What they need is like a warlord, you know. Like you need to have Moxley going around trying to do, fundamentally change things, but then there's somebody that's like a wild card that's just taking advantage of all the chaos. You know, going in, picking the bones, beating people up, whatever. And there's no method to it. It's just kind of, Moxley set a standard that I'm just going to run with now. Like I'm running with this. This is great. Do I prefer one world title or two? Well, one, preferably. But since the brands are separate, better off having one on both brands. If they were ever to end up unionized or something like that, then you probably go back to one world title and having everybody on both shows. WG feels as how would Sammy join if there isn't a fifth bloodline member? Well, that's a good question. He probably would be the best option. I think that's what people want, but it might just be 4-on-4 because The Rock it's not working a War Games match. You can forget that. But it might be a situation where it's the Usos, Roman, and Sammy versus the Tongans, Jacob Fatu, and Solo. And then they'll probably introduce the Tongans' brother in that match. But I think Sammy has to be in it because that's the OG bloodline. And the only other replacement would be The Rock. And I don't think The Rock is going to do it. If AJ Styles wasn't injured, what do you think of WWE sending him to TNA and becoming their champion for a while? That would be great. And I thought they were going to put him in the Hall of Fame this year. And it seemed like they were going to, because that talk was getting real hot about AJ Styles going into the Hall of Fame this year. And then out of nowhere, it just stopped. And all of a sudden, Rhino was going to the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to be at Bound for Glory. And I'm going to boo Rhino going into the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to boo Bob Ryder. I'm going to boo Rhino, though. Boo the fuck out of Rhino. Oh, it's Rhino's hometown. Boo. You've been a bum for 20 years. I can't imagine this. What a disaster. At least I'll be there when Joe Hendry wins the world title. That'd be great. That's going to be fun. It's going to be real sad if it doesn't happen, though. That's going to suck ass. I have to sit through Rhino being put into the Hall of Fame, and then Joe Hendry doesn't win the world title. Oh my God. But at the same time, though, I will get to see Jordynne Grace versus Masha Slamovich. And I think Masha Slamovich is one of the best women wrestlers in the world. So that match is going to be amazing. When they preempted their tapings, they replayed Masha Slamovich versus Jordynne Grace from 2 years ago at Bound for Glory, and it still looks a really great match. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm not really looking forward to much at this TNA pay-per-view, but I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to Joe Hendry winning the title and booing Rhino. I insist. I might bring a sign that says Rhino is a bum. You think Batista getting inducted this year? I think so. I think he wants to do something. I think he talked about it recently that he wanted to do something with WWE. Thoughts on Spooky Wendy Chu? The character is fine, but I prefer babyface Wendy Chu. I agree. I don't understand why she's a heel anyway, and we don't understand why she's this way. And plus, we got enough girls running around in black lipstick. Enough. It's too much. Enough of that. Why is Lance Archer looks like Drew McIntyre? I don't know, but he got upset about it. He was on Twitter, salty as a motherfucker. People was talking about him, but he looked bad. He didn't look good. He looked bad. He was down bad. He was down worse than ever. Is Jordynne Grace the girl in the vignette? No, that's Delta. She's from Australia. She was the next big Australian female wrestler after Rhea Ripley left. I think her hiring was I think she went to a tryout while they was in Australia in February, and there was some real big smoke around her. I've seen like 1 or 2 matches. She looks a lot like what's that girl's name? Valhalla. You know, a lot of the Mad Max kind of Mad Max look to her, but she looks unique. Looks like a big Luna Vachon kind of character. Might be interesting. Hopefully they book her correctly and she doesn't just go out there and start doing a bunch of fucking jobs. Because she could be major. She could be major. And that's just from the match or 2 that I've seen of her. I'm not like a specialist in Delta, but I've seen a couple of matches. And she used to wrestle men too, so you know that they do that on the indies. They wrestle a bunch of guys all the time. The only problem I think is I think NXT is adding too many women at once. You know, they added Stephanie and Julia and then forced them to tag team together because they debuted them back to back. And now they're gonna debut Delta. And it's like, okay, what are you gonna do with her? I would have been smart to take one of them and put him in the North American title division, which is probably what they're going to end up doing with Delta. Lance Archer didn't look like he wanted to be there with the Don Callis family. He didn't look like he had been in the gym either. I don't know what's going on with that guy. I don't understand how he's still employed. How is he still employed? Lance Archer has been a bum since TNA. How is he still employed? Because somebody got brain fucked into thinking he was good in Japan. He was never good. He was never good. Lance Archer has always sucked. Initially, he looked like Test. Then he went and got a tramp stamp, and I just didn't take him seriously after that. And then he floated around doing the everybody dies, and he came into AEW, promptly started losing. Promptly started made it look like a goof. And now he's cosplaying Drew McIntyre. I don't get it. This is the shits. People got tired of crazy stoic girls after Alexa Bliss and Lily. Yeah, I think she took it and ran with it. It ended up being a big money maker, but I think she kind of did enough of that for people for a while, and we don't necessarily need spooky girls anymore. Oh, I heard she's coming back. They didn't say when, but she's been gone for 2 years, and they claim she actually is going to return. So I think that her and Carmella are going to be getting their walking papers now that Triple H is running the show. I don't see, I don't see too much in the way of Alexa Bliss and Carmella getting anything done in WWE now that Triple H is there. You think Jeff Hardy will be in the Royal Rumble? Not without Matt. Wait, her name is Delta. What happens to JetBlue? I'm very confused. Who is JetBlue? How about sending Drew to TNA instead? He could drop it to Joe Hendry if he doesn't win at Bound for Glory. Part of the storyline could include Drew being frustrated he can't win a world title in WWE. I think Drew is probably too big. Drew would be great because he's got history in TNA, but since CM Punk has elevated him now, he probably no, probably wouldn't do it. AJ is on the downslope of his career, so it'd probably be the best option for him. Just like they're sending Shinsuke Nakamura to Noah, sending AJ Styles to TNA is probably great for them. But McIntyre, nah, they're not sending. They're not about to send one of their top guys in their prime over there. AJ is in his last run, so maybe they'll let him do it. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that AJ Styles is going to show up in Detroit because I did get to see him wrestle live on a Monday Night Raw, but seeing him in TNA would be great. I'm gonna get to see the Hardy Boys live. I've never seen the Hardy Boys wrestle live, so I'm going to get to see them live at Bound for Glory. So that would be pretty cool. Take that one off my bucket list. Remember when he was Vance Archer in WWE ECW and nobody cared then? I don't understand why anybody cares now. Alexa Bliss is greater than Mercedes Moné. Say that in public and see if you'll start a riot. Samoa Joe and Christian should be inducted in TNA Hall of Fame. They only induct one person a year. I don't know why this year had to be Rhino, but they only do one person a year. They're doing two this year because of Bob Ryder. I think he passed away this year. I haven't decided whether I'm going to go to the tapings or not. I think I will. I'm not doing shit that weekend. So I'm going to go to Bound for Glory, then the tapings are the next day. And the tapings are really cheap. And it's in the same building. So I may just go to the tapings too. Even if I have to go by myself, I'll go. I asked Young Sturge if he wanted to go. He said, yeah, but he only wanted to go to the tapings at first because they were cheaper. And I was like, well, shit, I already bought the tickets for the pay-per-view. So we're going to go to the pay-per-view, and then I guess I'll go to the tapings by myself. But I'm really looking forward to that tandoori chicken that's on Wayne State campus. Shit. They got an Indian spot on Wayne State's campus. Tandoori chicken. Mwah. Jesus. They also have a grocery store that sells pre-made corned beef sandwiches. It's right across the street from the from the field house. Oh my god. I haven't made up my mind what I'm going to go and get before the show. Probably gonna go get a corned beef sandwich. Because that tandoori chicken, last time I ate that with some naan bread and some rice, I almost fell asleep in the restaurant. It was crazy. I hate that they got rid of my shawarma spot from over there. There used to be a shawarma spot. I used to always tell you this. When I used to in college, I used to go into the Barnes and Nobles, had gigantic Barnes and Nobles. I would go and I would get a heavy metal magazine, and then I would go to the shawarma spot, and I would go sit in the corner, get a chicken shawarma, eat my shawarma, and read my heavy metal magazine in between classes. That was my shit. And I did not want to be disrupted during this time. And those were the good old days of like 10 years ago. All right. So I guess we can wrap this thing up. It's after 10 o'clock. I appreciate everybody for stopping by, man. Thank you guys for your time. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, man. If you haven't liked the video, like it. It's time to start trying to get more eyeballs on this channel. Mike Santana could be a great TNA World Champion. You know, they took his foot off the gas. It seemed like they were going in that direction with the super push they were giving him, and then he got, you know, the Joe Hendry thing happened in NXT, and then they just took Mike Santana and threw him into the Macklin, Eric Young, the Josh Alexander area of TNA, and that's it. But yeah, he would be great. He's a great talent. He's a good talented guy. Make Middle East raps again. Thanks for the show. Yeah, I appreciate it. Salute, and I'll talk to you guys later.